So it appears that an anime film, a spin-off of the hit show Demon Slayer, has defeated Superman at the box office. What does this mean, and what does it look like for James Gunn's DCU? And how does it break down the overall increase of anime appeal?
'Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.
Hi everyone, my name is Jacob Berry. Welcome to the StudioJake vidcast where I talk about all things pop culture. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell to get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you want to support me in the work that I do, head on over to my new website, studiojakemedia.substack.com. The link is in the description of the video. You can find even more pop culture commentary. And before I get into the topic, I want to thank everyone for their patience. I wasn't able to shoot a video last week because my laptop just died on me. And so I'm having to use my spare, so some of the quality may drop. So just be patient with me. I will do two videos this week, one today and then one on Friday. So be on the lookout for that one to make up for not doing that one. But until I get a more high quality laptop, this is going to be the new norm, at least for a little bit. But thank you for your patience. It means a lot to me. Okay, so diving into the topic of an anime film defeating Superman at the box office, that is almost unheard of. You might recall that when theaters first started opening up circa 2021, when the unconstitutional lockdown happened to all of America because of some unspecified virus of unknown origin. Thank you, Critical Drinker, for that one. I recall how Mugen Train, which was also a Demon Slayer film, and then My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission both took the box office by storm. Meanwhile, Hollywood films that were just starting to come back out weren't doing so hot. Now, some people were blaming just fatigue, genre fatigue, or they just got used to a new norm of being under an unconstitutional house arrest. But whatever the case may be, there was a shift and we saw diminishing box office returns. And I honestly think it is not because of superhero fatigue or a genre specific fatigue. I think that people are just tired of these Hollywood elites lecturing us. We've got Joaquin Phoenix using his Oscar speeches to talk about climate change, but then he flies everywhere on a private jet. Leonardo DiCaprio is probably the biggest offender of this. And it goes on and on and on with their hypocrisy. I could go into so many other things. Now, I believe that is why the box office has been affected, because even good, solid films are being sort of hit by this. Now, if you ask some of my other YouTube colleagues, they didn't care much for Superman. I did. I actually enjoyed Superman. In fact, at my aforementioned Substack, I talked about Superman. I had two competing reviews. My colleague, Rosemary Stainbrook, she wrote a very negative review about Superman, and I wrote a very positive review of Superman. But even I have to admit that I was blown away by Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Now, it has a much longer name than that, but I am going to be calling it Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. To help me out, I decided to ask Gemini how big of a twist this was as far as filmmaking goes. So when I asked, did Demon Slayer Infinity Castle beat Superman at the box office? A replied, yes, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle beat Superman at the box office, surpassing it in worldwide gross revenue. Infinity Castle has earned over 643 million globally, while Superman's total is around 615 million. This makes Infinity Castle the first non-English, non-Chinese film to gross over 600 million worldwide. And besides that, it has since become the largest box office opening for any Japanese film. It even broke its own franchise's previous record, Mugen Train. It beat out Studio Ghibli. It has done amazing. So why is that? Why did a lesser known Japanese adaptation of a manga beat one of the most iconic superheroes of all time, also based on a comic book? By the way, a manga is just a form of comic book. It's a serialized format that is released in magazines. You might be familiar with the term Jump Comics. That is where a lot of them come. There are other besides Jump. They're just the biggest name. But that is basically what it is. A manga is a Japanese comic book, but what differentiates it is it goes backwards. It doesn't go the same page turner. We tend to go left to right. Manga goes right to left. And Demon Slayer is based on a very popular historical fiction manga. It is very big in Japan, and in fact, it has ended. That's something you don't see often in American comic books. In Japan, a lot of these mangas come to an end. They just simply close their stories. Now, some of them might have spin-offs, or they might follow a different character, but typically these things do come to a close. There are exceptions to that. Obviously, One Piece, Berserk is still going. Dragon Ball Z, or now it's called Dragon Ball Super, it continues. So there are exceptions to this rule, but typically even popular ones like, say, Sailor Moon, they have come to an end. So the studio behind Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, they had done a very popular anime, and they had done 2 movies prior to this. And they actually ended up adapting the movies into full-on parts of the seasons of the anime. I don't think they're going to do that with Infinity Castle. Infinity Castle is meant to be a trilogy. It's going to be 3 films. Superman is meant to launch a whole franchise, the DC Universe, James Gunn and Peter Safran's universe. So why did Demon Slayer beat out Superman? Again, Superman is one of the most recognizable brands in the entire world. Demon Slayer, while a popular anime, it still lacks the name recognition of Superman. Well, the answer is very obvious, and it is what I said before. People are just tired, and they have low expectations from Hollywood now. So even when a movie is good, like say F1, it really underperforms. F1 should have been a close to $1 billion film, but because people are just so tired of getting lectured about politics, about race, about gender, about what to eat, they are so tired of the nannying that Hollywood is trying to push, and of course the hypocrisy behind it. I think that really affected Superman's box office returns. So like I said, I enjoyed Superman. Jester Bell, who I often co-host her live streams, she disagreed with me. She did not care for Superman, and that's okay. But I think just the average person would have seen Superman as something worth enjoying. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle is just a straight up historical fantasy. Yes, it does explore deep themes, but they're often personal and emotional, not so much political. Now, Infinity Castle in particular is interesting because unlike the My Hero Academia films or even the Dragon Ball Super films, they could be contextualized outside their franchise. So, for example, Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods, which became the first season of Dragon Ball Super, they contextualized the characters enough where you don't feel like you need to go back and watch the last 20 years of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z to understand what was going on. They gave you enough of the context. My Hero Academia is also very good at this. They are good at making the films very standalone through flashbacks or whatever. You can really connect with them. I even have recommended to my family, who outside of me and my wife don't watch My Hero Academia, I have told them that I think that they would enjoy My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission because the film is so standalone. It gives you enough context and gives you enough character development where you don't need to go back and watch the entire series to understand it. Demon Slayer Infinity Castle does this a little bit, but in my humblest of opinions, you still need to at least be a little familiar with the franchise. So how did it blow all of these other records? It is because people are tired, like I said, of being lectured, and they just want to have a good time. And when you hear about a secret corps of humans who learn incredible martial arts skills and even a little bit of magic and whatnot to go and battle these vampiric creatures that they call demons, I can see how that would have an appeal, even if you're not familiar with the show. But I honestly think the main reason is they know going into an anime, there's not going to be a politically correct agenda. And listen, I'll be the first to tell you, as a fan of anime, there is a lot of bizarre and freaky anime out there. So pay attention to the ratings. A lot of people want to attack anime because they do have some very weird and often deviant titles and stories, not within the more mainstream ones, but there are rich ones like Naruto, like Trigun. And yes, there's some crude humor in some of those and whatnot, but you can look past all that and find something for everyone. Pokemon certainly is for kids. Digimon certainly is for kids. You can bring your children to watch those. Certain Studio Ghibli titles. Now, there are rumors that Skydance, after, poaching Paramount, that they also want to go after Warner Brothers. I'd be very interested to see how that played out. I don't know if it is going to play out, but Warner Brothers Discovery needs some sort of change. And I really think that James Gunn needs to pay attention. If you like that video, be sure to give it a like, share it out to all your friends, leave me a comment, tell what you think, and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, ring that little bell so you get notifications when I post a new vidcast, and consider becoming a channel member. If you want to support me in the work that I do, head on over to my new website, studiojakemedia.substack.com. The link is in the description of the video, where you can find even more pop culture articles. And I want to thank my 2 paid subscribers, Lou Aguilar and Shelby Seeley. Thank you both so much. You make videos like this possible and the stuff that I do on my Substack possible. So thank you. At that same website, there's a conveniently titled Buy My Book section, where you can find links to purchase the novels that I have written. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.